The first thing that disappeared in that river wasn't a person. It was an entire tree, its trunk too thick for a normal current to move. I saw it myself, floating past us after the storm. It was spinning slowly in the middle of the water, then suddenly stopped in a specific spot as if something had grabbed it from below. After that, it vanished. It didn't drift to the other bank and it didn't sink gradually. It just went straight down all at once, like the river had opened its mouth and swallowed it whole. At the time, I was working at a small water treatment plant a few miles from the nearest town, so I didn't think much of it. Rivers act weird after storms. I used to hear that line from supervisors all the time. But 2 days later, a fishing boat went missing. A week after that, a car disappeared. That was when I started feeling like something was going on that I didn't understand. The spot was well known among fishermen, but nobody liked standing near that part of the river. The water there just moved differently. From a distance, it looked normal, but as you got closer, you'd notice the current pulling toward a single point beneath the surface. No clear whirlpool, no foam, nothing you could point at and say, that's the reason. Just a continuous downward pull. I told my coworker Daniel what I saw, and he just laughed it off, saying I was spending way too much time staring at the water. The next day, we took the plant's boat out to inspect the area. We didn't find anything at first. Then Daniel noticed something wedged between the rocks on the bank. It was the rusty piece of metal that looked like part of a grate or an old door. When he pulled it away, it revealed a dark opening under the bank, wide enough for a grown man to fit through. It wasn't a natural cave. The walls were straight and lined with an old layer of concrete. Stranger still, the water was rushing inside with serious force. Daniel stared at it for a few seconds, then said something I've never forgotten. "That ain't a river opening." We called our supervisor, and he ordered us to get away from it immediately, claiming the area was old and contained drainage pipes from a previous project. It was a logical explanation, so we believed him. Or at least, we tried to. That night, while reviewing the plant's logs, I came across an old map of the river. Underground lines stretched from the area we discovered all the way out into the distance. At the bottom of the map, there was a labeled section, Drainage Facility Number 4. The problem was, Facility Number 4 didn't exist on any modern maps. The next morning, Daniel went back to the spot before I even got to work. He called me from his phone, and I could tell right away his voice was completely off. He wasn't scared, but he was talking fast, like he wanted to get off the phone as quickly as possible. He said the water level had dropped a bit and that he could see something inside the opening. I asked him what he saw, but he didn't answer directly. He just said, "Get over here and see for yourself." When I arrived, I found him standing by the bank, staring into the water. There are mud tracks on the concrete, some looked like footprints, and the water was washing them away fast. He told me he'd gone about 20 feet into the passage and stopped when he heard a noise coming from deep inside. It was a slow metallic clanging sound, repeating every few seconds. We grabbed 2 heavy-duty flashlights and stepped in. The passage was narrower than we thought, with a low ceiling, its walls coated in white salt and years of buildup. The water was up to our knees, and the current was visibly dragging us inward. After about 50 feet, we found a small chamber housing a massive metal gate standing half open. Beyond it lay an even larger tunnel. On the wall, we spotted old painted markings, arrows, numbers, and a faded warning to stay clear while the pumps were running. There weren't any pumps running, though. At least that's what we thought. As we stood there, we heard a deep sound coming from somewhere far underground. Then the water suddenly surged. It rose from knee-deep to mid-thigh in seconds. Daniel grabbed my arm and said, "We need to head back." We started moving toward the exit, but the sound hit again, closer this time. Then came another, louder noise, like a massive steel door slamming shut. Right after that, Daniel's flashlight went out. He screamed in the dark that something had grabbed his boot. I tried pulling him back, but my effort was useless. Daniel fell into the water. It was pitch black and I couldn't see a thing. Just after he went down, I saw his hand surface for a brief second before slipping back under. A few seconds later, his hand broke the surface again. I grabbed hold of it with everything I had, but the current was too strong. Within seconds, there was nothing left to hold on to. I made it out alone and called 911, telling them everything. A rescue crew arrived, but they refused to enter the tunnel due to the high water levels and the risk of a collapse. Hours later, a county official showed up and cordoned off the area. They claimed Daniel had fallen into an old drainage facility and drowned. It was a simple, acceptable explanation, but when I got back to the plant that evening, I found something that made me realize the problem wasn't just limited to the tunnel. The water flow log showed a sudden pressure spike underground at the exact moment Daniel vanished. Then I noticed something else. The pressure hadn't dropped after that, it was still rising. The next day, the plant was shut down completely. They claimed there was a risk of a collapse in part of the old drainage system, and that nearby residents needed to stay away from the river until further notice. They didn't tell anyone about Daniel, the passage, or the building pressure underground, but I still had a copy of that old map. I stayed up all night studying it until I caught something I'd missed before. The lines we thought were just pipes didn't only connect to the river. They ran beneath the town, under the highway, and terminated at an abandoned quarry that had been out of use for decades. I called the official supervising the site and asked him about the quarry. He went dead silent for a few seconds before telling me, "Don't go out there." He didn't explain why, and he didn't say it was dangerous, just those exact words. The following morning, the ground near the river started shaking. It was a rhythmic, intermittent rumble, like something massive was operating underground. Then the water started changing. Trees, debris, and small objects carried by the current all began getting pulled toward that same spot. By noon, I saw something floating on the surface. It was Daniel's jacket. I recognized it instantly. It was drifting slowly toward the drainage opening. I ran toward the bank but stopped dead in my tracks when I heard a sound coming from beneath the water. 3 metallic thuds, then 3 more. The exact same noise Daniel and I had heard inside the tunnel. Right after, the water level began dropping fast. I didn't run at first. I just stood there watching as parts of a massive facility surfaced. Structures that weren't on a single modern map. Steel gates, pipes, and concrete passages stretching into the dark. Then, one of the gates moved, not from a collapse and not from the current. It moved slowly from the inside out. At that exact moment, the plant's emergency sirens blared to life. I bolted for my car, and as I ran, I heard a deafening collapse behind me. Water surged over the bank like a broken dam. The last thing I saw before tearing out of there was the drainage opening. It had widened enough for a semi-truck to drive through. I never found out what was sitting at the end of that old system, or why they hid those maps. Daniel was never found, and the authorities claimed his body was just washed away downstream. 3 weeks later, they reopened the road, stating the issue had been fully contained, but they never reopened the river. They put up a new fence and capped the drainage opening with concrete. Just 2 days ago, I was driving along the nearby highway when I caught a glimpse of the water from a distance. The river was dead calm. Then I saw something that made me pull off to the side of the road. A massive tree trunk was floating right in the middle of the river. It suddenly stopped in that exact same spot. Seconds later, it began sinking slowly beneath the surface. And right before it vanished completely, sitting inside my car, I heard 3 metallic thuds. Then 3 more. I stepped on the gas and drove off. Nobody knows where that sound comes from. Nobody knows where Daniel's body went. And nobody can solve this damn mystery. I lost my coworker and my friend, and I still haven't been able to move past it.